phone. What? You're not a phone, you're a computer. Live and Lost. 5. It's time to show you my lengthy list of lists. Oh my god. So many things, so many things. Let's move this way so you can see from this light a little better. These lights are better over here. Yeah. Sit there. How that kind of works. Oh my lordy. There's a series of lists that keeps me going. A list of lists. I have a list. A list of all lists. Makes me think about a list of all the sluts I've missed. I've never fucked this up, these sluts. Anyway. This is my weekly plan board. This is my monthly board. This is my daily board. All of them are woefully out of date. This looks like I'm doing pretty good. Tuesday the 1st. Oh, but that's last month. My goal with the daily board is to set it up the night before for today. And right now it just lists covers I want to do as though it were a random whiteboard for remembering random stupid shit. But it is not. Yeah, it's kind of interesting and fights against my imposter syndrome to try to live life in a way that is productive for ADD. Because I have ambiguity as far as diagnosis goes. Because I don't have regular medical access. But my kid is diagnosed with ADD, and we were doing it remote. So I helped him take his test, and we answered all the same except for one. And he's quite ADD. And then I had a doctor recently before I got kicked off my insurance again because of the COVID stuff ending. That was like, well, we don't have access right now to the screeners and mental health professionals that would help us confirm that. But why don't we go ahead and we'll prescribe you Adderall, because folks who are not ADD report very frenetic and meth-like symptoms on Adderall. And if you have ADD, you should have the opposite effect, that you should be a little more focused and your brain energy should be down a little. And I'm like, what? Excuse me, doctor? You're going to, the method we're going to use is me does thing, reports what I think, and the doctor believes me? Believes me? What? So, yeah. And that's what we did. And he prescribed me Adderall. He didn't diagnose me ADHD. He does not have, he says, the full experience to do so, which I get. But now, I don't take it all the time. It's kind of miserable to come off of. And I don't have consistent access. I think there's one more refill. And then I got to wait till I have a doctor again. So I'll probably get the other refill and then hold them in emergency reserve for days that I really need help. Which is kind of how I've been using them now. So there's that. And PDA is a bitch. And being someone who is dissociative, which that's an official diagnosis I have, it's really, really hard to keep your tunnel headed the direction you want to. Yesterday, I had all sorts of things that I was supposed to do, and I did all sorts of things, and none of them were that thing. That's another fun thing when your ADD and your PTSD avoidance go on a train together. They're like, oh, let's not do it. Because I scheduled it for myself, like, I need to sit down and do hours of sorting my material, harvesting. It's what I said on here before. I need to harvest it. It's like endless, and like, okay. So I also have tools on my computer. There is every month I make a monthly document. And that monthly document is kind of for my family to prepare our meals, to communicate what things need to be used in the fridge, any upcoming dates we have in the next month or so. That's one of the things that has been really important for me on the ADD front is like I used to always start these weekly boards on a Monday. Now it starts whenever I start. This happens to be on a Monday because I happen to be looking at it either on a Sunday or a Monday. So the weekly goes about a week, and it usually actually goes for me about 9 days because I leave more space at the top and then there's smaller amounts at the bottom. And it just starts whenever I start it again. Same with my monthly. It starts on whatever week I started making it again, and it may include more than 1 month. Otherwise, all my tools would be empty because it'd be like, well, I guess I have to wait until the next week starts to start it. And then by the time the next week starts, I've forgotten again. But every time I have an idea, I put it down in terribly abused notebooks. So many notebooks. I have notebooks that are just for creativity. I have notebooks that are only for short-term to-do lists. I have notebooks that are just more broad for whatever happens to go into them. So many notebooks. And things go there and then they die there. They just die there. Yesterday I did zero sorting. Zero. And there's this duality of at the same time, I need to be driving myself to get around demand avoidance, to figure out how to trick my brain into doing things, how to motivate it with smaller bursts of activity and dopamine, how to try to trick myself into getting into a hyperfixation place. And in general, do the thing that needs doing. And then on the other hand, I have to have peace and understanding that at least a percentage of the time that will not happen. It will fail. It will crash. And yesterday I got so much stuff done. Oh my God, my house looks beautiful. Not a single thing on my planner. Yeah. So there's the monthly document. It actually starts with, again, I have a list of lists I need, systems I need, and then a list of lists I already have. And I have what I call my life doc, which isn't fully filled out, but it's because it's kind of vague and I kind of know what goes in it. And it's where I sit down and every so often look at what am I actually trying to do? What actually matters to me? Because I get in the weeds with like reactionary go. Very reactive and short-term thinking. And I'll get in the weeds of trying real hard to do things and just charge off to someplace I never meant to be. This happens to me all the time. So it's just kind of a really, really, really broad look at what do I want out of life and continuing to ask myself in case those priorities change. And then there's the yearly doc, which is sort of like if you were in a business and you did your yearly kind of closeout and your pitch for your goals for the next year. Just kind of a broad strokes look at what that means in practice for your upcoming year. And all of the timelines are like, or so. Just like when there's the quarterly document, which is all specific and attainable. And that again is going to be like a business quarterly meeting that goes, how have the things we've been trying to be doing going? And where are they going? And in the yearly and the life, it's much more vague. What's our general like direction? And then in the quarterly, it has to be very specific, attainable, timeline oriented things. And when you go back over it in the quarterly meetings, it's not about you suck, you didn't do X, Y, Z. It's just about looking it in the face and accepting this didn't happen. Why didn't this happen? What can it like? And sometimes why didn't it happen? Well, during that quarter, an international pandemic broke out, and so we couldn't. Like, I was supposed to be doing weekly live shows. I was finally gonna get my weekly improv lobby live in a venue. Oh yeah, so excited! The restaurant shut down, so clearly that didn't work. Here I am once again. So Then there's the monthly document, which is kind of a family thing. We also have my planner, which is a visualization of both my year. Like it's my visualization day by day of all of my documents put into a timeline. And then the monthly, which I think I already mentioned, which is about family coordination. And then there's a central task junction that me and my partner share. And then each of my kids have a central task junction. My kids who live with me. I consider my godson my kid, but he doesn't live with me. It's not my job to organize his daily life. And that's just kind of a central place where all of these things exist. So if you're looking for any tool, you can find it from one location. I got that from my multimedia class at PCC. Marvelous, marvelous, marvelous thing. I didn't even know that was the starting part. Like trying to learn about multimedia. I'm like, where are we going to start? We're going to start with picture editing. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And they're like, you're going to start with organizing your file folders because you need to do that. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't know I needed that. So a lot of their systems I yanked from my life. And those are all things that exist in a digital space. So as far as ADD, they might as well be invisible. My planner, I'm pretty good at remembering to go back and use. No, not always. I missed an appointment yesterday. My kids' therapy is normally Monday at 6, and it had been moved to 2. And I put it in my medical document, but I didn't move it to my planner. And I didn't check my email in the morning. And so we missed it. And so that's $100. Yeah. So these are kind of shorthand visual representations. None of the details go here. Well, not none, but like just enough to cue you on what's happening. And then same with the monthly. I prioritize them a little bit different. Like we try to do, it's a lot of things we're starting to do that we're not quite doing, like weekly open and closes, which is like gathering all our receipts, putting them in places, which I really need to be doing. The more I go towards working on my personal business endeavors, the more those receipts will matter. So this marks things like Zan's therapy that happens every week, trips that we're taking, yada, yada. And then the daily is about really, 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 really getting me out of the weeds. No weeds. That includes my daily routine things, like what time I'm supposed to fail. Did I wake up at the time I intended to? Did I do my stretch? What is my main focus area? Am I doing my basic crunch and exercises? Often fail. Did I eat breakfast within 30 minutes? Often fail. And then reminding me of the grinds, the habit grinds that I'm working on. Try to set up this night for the day before. Often fail. It's really hard to know how much patience to give yourself. Because, yes, we deserve peace and patience. But this world is made to fuck us. And if you can't push yourself past your limits, you're never going to get anywhere. Not in this world, not the way it's built. So I'm trying to find that balance. And I'm also trying to find, it's like, I'm a trained capitalist cock. I can work 36 hours in a row. I have worked 36 hours in a fucking row. More than once. Once with Pop John's. Technically I had a 4-hour nap because we drove down to Pullman. But 36 hours, 4-hour break, that's still pretty good. And then I did the same thing working at the casinos because those were 24 hours and I was the manager and people kept calling out. Anyway, I can push that grind for shit-ass corporations that don't matter, but I can't activate that grind for myself. And one is definitely, it's a given system. I know how to slip into it easily and it doesn't take cognitive energy. That's the thing I keep forgetting for myself, is that all of this takes cognitive and emotional energy. I am really, 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 really obsessive over making myself fail. I am insidious and neurotic about the fact that I know for a fact that I will always fail. Part of me believes that that's what I'm made for, that the world needs winners and losers, and that sad stories help make other people's life better. And tales of what could have been and the loser that makes you motivated, the inspiration porn. Um, I've always felt like a fridge where I was meant to die tragically and motivate somebody to truly do the thing. And so I have to constantly face the fact that I am doing everything within my power to sabotage myself, which is particularly complicated when you have dissociative symptoms because you're not always aware of what you've done to sabotage yourself. And those systems are really good at hijacking other systems like distraction symptoms. So that's real fun. I want to be in a phase of more discipline, of being a hard ass with myself. My live-in partner has been beautifully militant about making me learn to care for myself. And that is wonderful. But I feel like I went into a recovery phase in the little chrysalis, hiding in a ball, for almost a year now. And now I'm ready for what I keep calling my physical therapy part of learning to live again. I am strong and capable, and I have done things that make people go, "What the fuck?" Like, I can do all sorts of things. As I get more towards the actual reality of these things happening, and I'm talking to more gigs and I'm talking to more venues, I've started to have more thoughts about, like, the nonprofit I want to start. I was doing more market research on it, and there are some similar nonprofits. I feel like what I want to do is a little different, but the niches that it has, like there's a nonprofit that covers this niche and this niche, and it's not like that's not as original as you thought, says my brain. Well, people are already doing that, and look at the network they have. Look at all the people that they know. They're clearly going to do this better. Who the fuck do you think you are? Who the fuck do you think you are? And that's just winding in my head, and I was just losing faith and losing focus. And losing my insurance didn't help because that's been one of the main things I've been drilling on. Like, I really need psychiatric help. And it's my kid finally got back into therapy, which is great. Um, his therapist is perfect, and my baby soul is jealous as fuck. And I'm just trying to regulate myself as I go in. I'm like, you're experienced in trauma and ADD. I'm experienced in avoidant type people. I'm really glad this is really good for my kid. He copies some of my symptoms, not intentionally, but like you learn the problem solving of the adults around you. So if your adults have mental health issues, you often learn by osmosis to replicate them. And his father's highly avoidant and a pathological liar. So like delusional thinking, magical thinking is really present in his life. And he uses that, his heavily distraction, again, his stuff hijacked. So anyway, it's really great that he has this lady. She's really great. And I was struggling not to feel jealous in general because I was still on the waiting list. I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to vibe with my therapist. And then the Friday before I was supposed to have my first appointment, I got a call saying I'd been knocked off my insurance. And now for the last 3 weeks since then, every time I'm taking him to session, I'm just trying not to cry. And I've been mostly going into a fully dissociated place, just driving it down the hallway, turning on my mother machine. Just be like, yes, whatever I need to be supportive. I don't know if she notices, but I've just been separating off this storm of just a screaming child in a room throwing things like, how am I supposed to help him grow up to be healthy? That I'm so glad that they cover children in a different way than adults, but how am I supposed to model healthy behavior? How am I supposed to help him be well if I can never get well? And I don't believe in medical model where you become fixed. I believe in health or systemic model where you get the tools for the brain that you are. I will never be fixed, but I can certainly be better off than I am now. And there's so many different weird corners to what I have going on. Like, I'm diagnosed with the category of dissociative, the category. They didn't have enough time with me to get into what the fuck in there is happening. And some of my symptoms are very much like DID, but I still don't feel like it exactly is. When I watch how it operates now that I've been able to, at first it was like very amnesiac and I couldn't really see. And it was very much avoidance, and I would go off in a different headspace and then just completely erase that from my memory. That didn't happen. La La Land. But it started from, I remember being a little girl and being so lonely and wishing that I had a friend that could understand what I was going through. And then I just popped up with another voice, and I knew it was me. I'm like, well, I could play with you. I know what you're going through. And the relief in my heart when I was like, yes, yes. And so I started talking to her, knowing her was me. I started talking to her, and then I started realizing this was my dolly. This was my first conscious, like, I guess you might call it an ANP in the sense of DID, if that's the framework that I want to use. I just don't know. Don't have a therapist. I don't know. But I started realizing, oh, this dolly that I play games with, I can send her to do chores. I can send her to the abuse. I can have her do it. And I started staying home. And I would just imagine my room, and I would imagine all the toys I wanted to have and how my life was in my house. And I would just be in there instead of out there. And I did that long enough. And there were other moments that I now recognize, like one of my protector kind of personas, who I thought was generated older in my life. I actually traced back to when my abuser would put me in between the mattresses and, trigger warning, intense abuse and stuff. Content note. I had pretty bad asthma, and I call it like yo-yoing me with life, put me in between the mattresses and jump on it, or have my sister jump on it and then pull me out and watch me flub like a fish. And I've had I think when I got more in touch with that headspace, I realized that I had a bunch of these flashbacks before, but more recently, like now I have more mindfulness space, so I'm able to hold on to things that I wasn't able to previously hold on to. I would be able to think about it, and as soon as I was done thinking about it, it would wipe itself. So when I was thinking about it, it's like I could think about the other things that I remembered from the last time I was there, and then as soon as I put it down, it was like gone like that. I don't know what you're talking about. But I'm starting to get better at being able to hold it. Not all the time. I feel like there's sometimes when my cognitive ability is depressed and I'm more like in a more animal reactive headspace, and that is much harder to be able to, it's like I devolve a little bit. And I think that's like natural PTSD stuff, because when you have PTSD, you freeze at an age that's younger. And so you can like devolve back to that moment. And I look back at the acute kind of intense dissociative spaces that I've had in moments of acute cognitive trauma. And a lot of times it exists around, so there's the original incident that lasted maybe 2 years. And then my recognition that I have a primary trauma right after he left, because my parents loved me very much, but they were very young and very poor and had too many children and too many responsibilities. And he gave me the first personal one-on-one attention that I had really gotten. My needs were getting met in an important way that I didn't recognize I needed. And then he was gone, and the trauma of going back. So there's those two moments. It's like 4-ish, 4.5 to 6.5, 4 to 7, something, I don't know. And then 7 to 9. The whole year of 7, I don't really remember. I felt like an alien or an animal living in this new house, because they got their shit together after the instance. And they're like, whoa, we need to do this a little better. We moved my grandma in, and we moved into a house that we stayed in throughout high school. but this was a foreign land to me. So I would say the next couple years, there's intensity. But there wasn't exactly a new traumatizing instance when I turned 13, but there was new intense dissociation. And then I noticed that again, you could call my uncle as a stalker and my abusive best friend slash partner as maybe a new trauma incident. It didn't seem too intense to me at the time, but maybe my senses were broken. But I also feel like when you go through intense times of change, you can unbox certain things. Like, so my going through puberty, unbox certain things for me, like the fact that I knew about sex when I was 6. So I had no way to, meaning like 7, 8, and 9-year-olds are all like, I knew that sex. I know all about it. And they're like, yeah, me too, like with dicks. And they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So I had to play this game of pretending I knew while somehow showing that I really didn't know. And I didn't know how to do that. So I didn't get to grow into sexuality with my peers. And so I started to separate off a hypersexualized, because I had a lot of hormones and I had a lot of sex drive. And that started for me, I started to feel those urges around, 9 years old. Long story short, I really feel like there's a lot of complexity there and I need a lot of help. It doesn't, like OCD is another thing I'm diagnosed with. And I feel like OCD categorization rules what have become presented as DID symptoms. And it's possible because one of my other intrusive thoughts is that I am lying no matter what I say. I feel like I'm lying when I say my own name. So it's possible that I just do have DID and I keep trying to justify that I don't. I'm like, I don't have DID. I just have amnesia and other personas that take over for me and have different memories that I don't have access to because it's their life experience. And really, even if it didn't start from an OCD place, I kept things separated for so long that they probably had different synapses wire and fire together. Like, my persona, Rita, she shows intense signs of borderline disorder that I don't feel like other parts of me have. Um, like, I mean, it's it's complicated, and I really would need some assistance, but I'm not gonna get it. So onward. And that's why, like, it is really dangerous, all the armchair diagnosis. It does a lot of things like all this hate on narcissists, or the confusion around narcissism, because there's a lot of selfish assholes out there. And honestly, like, humans are selfish animals, and being selfish is natural. And if you don't stop yourself, if you don't stop and get into a mindfulness space and think, you're going to be reacting, with your amygdala, which is a grabby animal who wants things for yourself. And if you don't stop that, you're going to be self centered and you're going to be selfish and you're going to be a grabby monkey. And I feel like that's very natural, and most people are. And so when people get into circumstances where they receive abuse from somebody who's just a selfish asshole who hasn't bothered to learn to think, they're like, narcissism. And I'm like, no, not narcissism, because narcissism is a clinical diagnosis. It happens to people biologically, like with bipolar. You can get narcissism on the mania side, and it happens to people who were traumatized at an early age and forced, like usually neglect, emotional or physical neglect. And you learn to become hyper independent, and you learn that the social systems are a lie and that you have to look out for yourself. And it ends up with a very, 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 very fragile ego. It's almost like they're dissociated from that flat, fragile ego, though. They don't recognize, or sometimes they do, but often they don't recognize that they really, 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 really hate and feel insecure about themselves. And so they seek all of these brittle ways of meeting those needs, which is not to say you should put up with abuse from people who are selfish or put up with even clinically narcissist behavior that is unregulated and unhealthy. But my kiddo, it's hard to tell whether it's PTSD and self-involvement or whether it's actually narcissism. There was a long period of time that I was working 90 hours a week, and I thought his father was at home taking care of him, but his father was at home in a depression hole watching TV the whole time and not feeding him. So he has that hyper independence. He has that fragile ego, which presents itself with a lot of grandiosity and brittle um, ego serving things. And my partner is clinically narcissist, as in diagnosed as part of his bipolar. So I get really upset at a lot of the people who are very certain of their armchair diagnosis. And it's so easy to get fucked up. It's so easy to get it fucked up. I mean, like, but for some of us, the armchair is all we have. And that needs to be recognized too. That duality needs to be really present in our conversation. That confirmation bias is real. So whatever you diagnose yourself with, you have to take with a grain of salt. But also, confirmation bias is real for doctors too. And they don't live inside your head. So you have a level of expertise. Like people, you spend 12 years going to school to be a doctor. I am 36. I have spent 36 years being me. And even if you can like discard 70% of my memories because memories suck, what's that like? Let's call it 1 out of 4 memories are good. So 36 divided by 4. I'm so bad at math. It's 9. 9 years then. So I don't quite have a doctorate in me, but you would still listen to your medical assistant or your nurse because of the respect of their experience, even if it was less than yours, which doctors often don't. But it's a balance between those things. I mean, I had to figure that out with lupus too. So I got diagnosed with lupus tomatosis, which is the skin stuff. And then the skin doctors were like, you're having these indicators that are not in, I forget, it's like the RH1 or whatever. You're showing really high on these tests. And also your symptoms of joint pain and pervasive exhaustion and all these other things, they indicate systemic lupus. You need to go to a rheumatologist. We're pretty sure you have systemic lupus. Then I wasn't treated. I didn't have doctors for 2 years. And so I had to guess, and I didn't know, and I had to guess. And I started to, I mean, there were things like whenever I'm around heat lamps all the time and they don't bother me. And then occasionally I'm around a heat lamp and I can't stand it. And I am getting dizzy and weak, and it's very, very heat reactive and very, very sun reactive. Some days the sun don't bother me, and some days it's like I'm a vampire and it's piercing my soul. And all of this seemed like the things that I read about lupus. And then when I finally talked to the rheumatologist, he says, well, your tests do show a little bit high. So it's possible that there is systemic lupus here. But a couple things about this. A, when you have sun sensitivity with systemic lupus, it's not necessarily that you're feeling when the sun happens. The sun happens and you feel fine. And then in the next day or so, you start to feel those things throughout your body. Also, the pains that I were having were electric and sharp here. There's some in joints, but they're more minor. It's like those pains sound more like fibromyalgia. And then lupus can cause neuropathy in your feeties. And I have a lot of neuropathy in my feet. Often they're not awake at all. They're awake today. Good job, feet. But like they'll be shooting pain and pins and needles, and then just numbness. My foot will just die, starting in the big toe, and then it's like it travels until my whole foot. I can't feel it for sometimes a whole day. And he pointed out that I'm going to keep treating you. We'll keep seeing you quarterly. Lupus can be mild and increased, so systemic lupus, maybe. He said he doesn't like to, and I kind of appreciated this. He says, I don't like to be certain unless I see things that are clear and certain, because I feel like it kills our curiosity. And particularly, I do see lupus here. If I see systemic lupus here, I see it mildly. And the other things that you're experiencing, like, for example, the neuropathy, in lupus would progress to its most extreme form. And all of these, like RH1s and all these things, very, very present. And then you would start to get neuropathy. So your princess is in another castle, regardless of lupus, yes, no. You need to go see possibly a neurologist and a vascular person look at, you know, and then again, you're like being a sleuth for these things because my family has a lot of history of neuropathy in their legs and feet. Like my dad will start getting itchy. Like all the men on my dad's side of the family starts to get itchy, and then like it starts to get like pock marks on here. Then they itch it till it bleeds. Numb feet, fucked up feet. I'm like, I think we have circulation issues, some sort of genetic something that I don't even know. I don't even know what the options are in that. But going down a Google hole hasn't been helping me. And like, because what do you do to, I mean, help with lupus? Protect yourself from the sun. I mean, that's been good anyway. I think I might be sun sensitive for, I guess, apparently different reasons because it's more immediate than how lupus works. But also, that guy could have a narrow view of what lupus is, just like I had a narrow view of what OCD is. Ranting. Sometimes this feels purposeless, but I don't care. My brain constantly is telling me that what I'm doing is useless, so I guess I just have to keep doing it. Because I can't not be me. I've tried. I have sure tried. So today is a discipline day. I'm going to try to do the things that I was supposed to do yesterday. My list of things yesterday included a lot of sorting of my material, which is the hardest thing to make myself do. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of that and then do something else and do a little bit of that and do something else. It's really, really hard for me to look at my own art, to look at my own words. I'm very, very judgmental and hateful. I'm like, ew, what the fuck are you talking about? And it's very triggering. So many times I will pull up a recording that I have no idea about. Sometimes I think that's just a ADD memory type thing where I'm just like, what? I had this thought and then I went away. And other times I'm like, that's not me. I don't relate to that. That's terrifying. Does that live inside of me? So it's a lot. But like I said, on one of these previous videos, I came up with an idea. So I guess they're not useless. It's helping me. Came up with an idea to just hard sort. Anything that makes me feel any kind of thing goes in a pile. If it's not meant, well, and that's hard too, because somewhat like even just song ideas I have, that's stupid. Nope, just put song ideas over here. If we can get a good pile. And that's something I said in a previous video. It feels stupid, so write a stupid book. Twilight was a stupid book and everybody bought it. Twilight was a stupid book and everybody bought it. Twilight was a stupid book and everybody bought it. So write a stupid book, just write a stupid book, just write a stupid song and write a stupid book and make a stupid NPO and make it all stupid. Let's be stupid. Let's do it. So I did yesterday call and cancel my dentist appointment, let them know that I don't have insurance. They called me back and said, you have a big cavity that needs a root canal. We can pull it out for you for $100. And I just cried for a while because, I've lost all my back teeth because I couldn't get preventative medical dental care. And so I had to wait until they were rotting and they yanked them out. I did have nice people in Spokane that pulled out my wisdom teeth for me because I had wisdom teeth on the bottom. And they're like, hey, while I'm back here, it won't cost more. Do you want to just grab it? I'm like, fuck yeah. That happened twice with 2 different dentists. Good on you, mates. So I'm lucky in that sense, but I don't want to lose more teeth. I don't want to have to pull it out because I can't afford to get it filled. I just feel like they have to pull my body apart because they refuse. I have to get a new job. Looking up, and I'm going for several places that have insurance. I was not wanting to be full-time because I'm trying to work part-time. My partner has a good job and he was supporting me working part-time so I could work on my music. But I'm just going to have to kibosh that. Not kibosh music, but instead of giving it 20 hours a week, I'm going to have to give it 5-10 hours a week and work full-time so I can get insurance. And that, so that, yeah, applying for jobs and then sorting my shit. Then added to today, I want to message Ashley. I'm going to go help my bestie with her booth in Spokane for Dice, which is a fetish burlesque out there. Last time the dealer's room was a little lax in how it was handled. So I'm going to message her about, hey, I have dealer's room experience. Let me do X, Y, and Z. I think she'll be chill with that unless she's already noticed it was a challenge and fixed it. And then there's an a cappella group that I'm in that never got off the ground. There was a lot of interested ladies. They couldn't mix their schedules. And now people are leaving the chat group because nothing's happened. And I've been meaning to for a while send them a message, just kind of like, hey, I've been in a lot of these groups and have tried to get started. And I feel like we really wanted to Venn diagram everyone so we could, when our original meetings, we were trying to meet each other and there was always a time that somebody couldn't meet. I'm like, what if we just meet 2 or 3 of us at a time and do a Zoom recording? So those who can't be there in person, so like do a Zoom meeting of us in person. And then whoever can't be there in person, maybe can be there digitally and maybe can just listen to it afterhand and tell us what they thought about what we said. Because people cannot prioritize a maybe very well. This is nothing so far. So far, this is nothing. So people may have genuine interest and not be able to forward it. And I see that we want to make sure, because nobody's really the leader. The lady who started it is like, I'm not a leader in this. I'm interested in this. And I want this to go somewhere. So I'm going to tell them that. And I'm going to say, hey, I think that we should not worry about it until I'm going to start arranging a piece for us. I'm going to throw out here several that I'm interested in arranging. And the one that gets the most votes, I'm going to arrange. I'm going to send to y'all. And we can try to practice it up and then maybe get together after that once we have something. If there are other folks in here who enjoy arranging, you do the same thing. Let's get something concrete to rally around. And then we can start moving from there, And I think everyone who can sing each of the parts should sing each of the parts. Essentially, like if you have a range that allows you to sing any of these parts, you should learn as many of the parts as you can. That way we can balance it based on what range people have. That's another thing I could do digitally is start range checking everyone. Teach them how to range check if they don't know how. And they could send recordings to me, essentially, of them doing their sirens and exercises. And again, there are other people in the group who have these skills. So it doesn't just have to be me. And start getting those things schmoving. And maybe only 1 or 2 of them will end up wanting to do the thing. And then I could tell them, listen, if we only have 2 or 3 of us, we can't be an a cappella group necessarily. But we can be a 3-melody, beautiful arrangement with minor accompaniment. And many of us know how to do accompaniment. So there's all those things. Many of those are not a priority. Priority is job hunting and stuff sorting. And resetting my tools. And that's my biggest thing, is because a lot of times I fall off the horse and then I spend a lot of time shaming myself for having fallen off the horse. I want to just look at it in the face and go, you failed, and then get back on it. Get back on it. Get back on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. It's been live and lost. Listless with lists. Lists are my everything and lists are my bane. Oh my God, I'm going insane. Like I didn't already go. Oh. Till next time.